Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. Today's date is June 5th, the 5th day of June, or the 5th day of KLIS, Lou Information Station, whichever way you want to look at it. I'm Brad Hildebrand. That is John Combest. Good morning to you, John.
I have this crazy deja vu right now, Brad.
I don't know why that would be, John. Every single day for the past 23 plus years, and Niall Stevens is very jealous of him. Every single day for the past 23 years, John puts together this incredible site called johncombest.com. COMBEST, put a John on the front, a Combest on the, a .com on the rear, and you've got johncombest.com. Dozens of stories every single day, links to stories. It's like web. What version of web is this, John?
0.0.
It's like Web 0.0. But what John does is we put him on the air first thing in A Block. And by the way, did I say today's June 5th and this is A Block? If I didn't, I just did. And he gives us the top three. We bring in this fine gentleman right here. We dust him off, pull him out of the ground, and he says,
I'm Casey Kasem.
And then he starts off with,
In third place,
I've got a brand new plan for how to get your plates renewed, Brad. Remind us of your old standby of how you go and get your plates renewed.
John, you know, I go down to Jefferson City. You make fun of me, but the last time I went, I got my plates renewed, jumped on the elevator, went up one floor, got my real ID. I was in and out, both transactions in 15 minutes. Tell me how many of the fee offices you can go in and do both a driver's license and a set of license plates and spend 15 minutes there. And you know what the answer would be, John? You know how many places?
0.0.
That's very good. That's how many places you could get that
But
done.
I do have a workaround for it, Brad, that you could have done a few years ago, but you might have had to deal with some shady characters to get it done. Yesterday, the U.S. Attorney's Office, based here in St. Louis, Missouri, announced that 4 people have admitted to fraudulently registering vehicles in the state of Missouri. And I'll tell you how this scheme worked. According to the confessions, I guess you could say, from these folks, there was a gentleman named Gary Wilds, and he ran a company called Pinnacle Concierge. It just screams class. It screams the kind of thing that you would go to if you didn't want to waste time standing in line. And Gary Wilds had a concierge service where, you could go to him and he would just take care of your emissions. He would take care of getting your plates, paying your fees to the state. Like nobody wants to do that. Gary would handle that for you. As it turns out, Brad, Gary was working with some folks in local license offices to skirt emissions laws, to forge documents, to not pay the right amount of taxes, to severely underpay taxes. So it turns out that 3 former employees of contract license offices have pleaded guilty. As it turns out, these folks committed fraud and admitted to forging documents and underpaying the state what the state is owed. One woman was sentenced last year, back in July. She was sentenced to 4 years of probation, and she had to pay almost $85,000 in restitution. And I forgot the kicker here, Brad. It turns out that Mr. Wilds ended up getting caught because he was paying at least one of these women through Venmo. So he didn't apparently make much of an attempt to hide that he was paying bribes to forge this paperwork and to underreport tax revenue.
So let me get this straight. People thought he was running a legit business, right? So you'd hire him to take care of your license plate kind of stuff, correct?
And I should note real quick here too, Brad, that according to the Eastern District prosecutors here, many people, well, they didn't say many, but some people thought that they were paying a legitimate service. Some people seemed to know that their car would not meet emissions standards, and they paid the scary guy knowing that that the fix was in, so to speak.
So, and then what he was doing was he was slipping some of the people at the DOR fee offices a little cash under the table, or in this case, a little Venmo action, and they were essentially just going through the motions. And I guess if you're saying they're underpaying the sales tax, they had to somehow say that the sales taxes were paid, but they weren't. Was that the situation as well?
Yeah,
too?
yeah. There was all kinds of forgery involved, apparently. And to get specific, to get down to the nitty gritty with the numbers here, Brad, originally this gentleman paid one of the women $100 per transaction, so a flat fee. And that woman, according to the charges here and what she admitted, started off only doing one or two a week, I guess, while she kind of dipped her toe in the fraud market. And then eventually she was doing as many as 10 fraudulent transactions a day.
What?
So that's making a cool grand a day,
What?
Working at your contract license office.
She was doing 10 a day?
Yeah, so I mean, $1,000 to do a little fraud during the course of a day, just fudge a little paperwork. That seems like pretty good money. I mean, even you work, so that's an extra $5,000 a week on top of your salary.
Yeah, John, I'm going to stop doing this radio business and get a job doing that. You know what I'm saying?
It sounds like not a bad deal. Yeah, except for the
Right.
whole wearing an orange jumpsuit.
Yeah, that's probably not good.
That's probably not fun. So, Brad, and so I also look back, I don't see a whole lot of local coverage, although your favorite outlet, St. Louis Public Radio, picked this story up. And then there was some coverage last year from Fox 2 as well. So I have a link up to that today, Brad.
Interesting. Moving along.
Up a notch to number 2.
It is a rough week if you're an illegal alien in the city of St. Louis, Brad. This piece is brought to us by St. Louis Public Radio's Brian Munoz. The headline, St. Louis immigrants fear deportation as ICE texts demand in-person reviews. So folks that have, according to Munoz, immigrants without legal status. Mr. Munoz does not want to say illegal immigrants, but immigrants without legal status have received some text messages. And Mr. Munoz has seen one of them. It says, your ICE officer has requested that you report to the office for a case review this week. Please arrive at the office either on Tuesday, June 3rd or Wednesday, June 4th. If you have any questions, feel free to contact the office. And according to a woman named Jessica Mayo, she's an immigration attorney, this is just a ploy to get people to come in, get them to think that their case is under review, and then detain and deport them. So now the immigrant community, Brad, is not taking this laying down. They're not taking this having a siesta. They are planning a rally on Friday to show that they will not be pushed around and, quote, to ensure that ICE knows that the community is watching. Now, to me, if I'm an ICE member, I want to know where this rally is. And then I'll just start asking people for their paperwork. That seems pretty simple, doesn't it, Brett?
John, does this any different than every once in a while you hear about a sting operation where a police department, they do this every once in a while with outstanding warrants, where they'll send out a letter, hey, you've won a prize. And you
Sports
have to,
tickets, you got a brand new television or a pair of Air Jordans.
right, and come to this location on such and such a date when you will get your prize. And these people show up and everything looks good, and they rent like a convention center room or something like that. And then they walk through a door, and then they get the golden or the silver or the black handcuffs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does seem like it. But it seems like, too, what Mr. Munoz, I think, was having a hard time getting around is, at least according to some of these examples, these folks know that they're here illegally. They've either overstayed a visa or they've made some sort of a mistake, quote unquote mistake, where they just happen to be here illegally. So ICE is starting to round these folks up. And I guess this is the time for, to tell ICE that the community's watching. I don't know if that is a threat against the feds or what.
All they have to do is just get a federal judge to essentially say, no, you can't take this person. They're perfectly fine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're doing great things for the community. We can't toss them out.
Right. Or as the story that has been talked about yesterday quite a bit, the story that was in a couple of the papers of this nutbag who set the Jewish people on fire in Boulder, Colorado. The story isn't about the victims. The story was about his daughter. You know this crazy story?
Yeah, it was. He's a father, Brad.
Right. He's like the Maryland father guy. He's a Maryland father. He's a Boulder father.
He's
Colorado father who has 5 kids, and one of whom is going to go to, and the bizarre story about this, he was going to do this like last month or 2 months ago, but he wanted to wait until his daughter graduated from high school.
I think that's so brave and bold of him.
Man, what a nice father that is. Okay, on to number 1.
The number one.
Brad, back in your younger days, did you ever get in an argument with a lady friend and she told you she was just done with you? You ever experience that, Brad?
That happened yesterday.
Well, you know what? You were younger yesterday. It was your birthday as well. Your 90th birthday.
I'm
yesterday.
91
and
in one day.
Sometimes people get real mad and they have like a hissy fit, and then like an hour later, you're cleaning yourself up in her sink and you give her a kiss goodbye and you're on your way. Right? You experienced that before, Brad?
Yeah, just yesterday.
Just yesterday. Well, Brad, if you think back, I know you and I are both old enough to remember the end of the legislative session last month in May, and Democrats were really mad at Republicans because Republicans had used that controversial technique called the moving the previous question, the PQ, to move their abortion legislation and their sick leave legislation. And Democrats the last few weeks have said, look, we are done with you as Republicans. We're not going to cooperate with you. There need to be real consequences for that type of behavior. Well, in the early morning hours this morning, Brad, Governor Mike Kehoe and Senate Republicans needed Democrat votes to pass a stadiums bill. And they got them from the Democrats, Brad. Yes, that's right. SB 3, which is the Senate Bill 3, for the special session that deals with stadiums, Democrats joined Republicans in voting for the stadiums bill overnight, Brad. So it turns out that Democrats who said, we're not going to cooperate and you're never going to have us and you guys ruin the reputation, nothing's getting passed around here, they can make a little exception if it involves a Kansas City stadium. So, Brad, that's good news for us, right? If you love sports, and I know you're a big sports guy, we probably are going to get a brand new Royal Stadium, and Democrats didn't do anything to stop it.
John, there's one very important question here.
Oh, what's that, Brad?
Do you have a list of the Democrats that crossed over? And I will ask you this right up front. If you do have a list, how many women were on their list? I say none.
No, they were several women. Yeah, so
What?
for example, Angela Mosley, who represents the beautiful North County area, Maggie Nurenburn. Now, she's from the western part of the state, and Barbara Washington is from the western part of the state. So, Brad, that really undermines, I know that you like to make the argument that women wouldn't do this, the great Sandy Crawford, she's a Republican state senator. So, yeah, we've had let's not forget Patty Lewis. No, she's a Democratic state senator as well. A number of women supported the stadiums bill, Brad.
I'm just going for the Dems, the Dem senators, because of the fact
and so, like I said,
right.
Angela Mosley, Maggie Nurenburn, Patty Lewis, those were Democratic women. In fact, every Democratic woman, with the exception of Tracy McCreary. Tracy McCreary voted no, but, Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman voted no too, Brad. So, you have Republican women voting no as well.
Well, see, we need Mary Elizabeth Coleman as the new governor, and then she would say, hey, you Kansas City Chiefs guys, you owners, move over to Kansas. I don't give a poop. Just move over there. That's what she'd say. Don't you think?
So an early morning deal, Brad. And you know what? I was one of those folks who was really skeptical. I didn't think there was any way that the stadiums bill was going to pass, but Governor Kehoe worked the legislature yesterday. Now, there's a few different proposals, and I know we're up against time due to my microphone issues. I caused this to be over in A block here. But Governor Kehoe worked a number of senators yesterday, worked out, there were a lot of conversations about other pieces like property taxes, like some of those other capital spending bills that were in separate bills. But Governor Kehoe got the stadium bill done. And I guess the tricky thing is right now, Brad, what's going to happen in the Missouri House? That vote in the Missouri House was really close. So I don't know if it's going to get through the House.
I don't even know where to start from all of the things that have been said that are just wrong.
Okay.
Every time you play that, I just get sentimental knowing that we're losing Mary Elizabeth next year, Brad.
I don't even know where to start from all of the things that have been said that are just wrong.
I ran into her the other day. Did I tell you about this?
And did she drop our daily comment from The Wizard of Oz that for some reason you started playing 3 weeks ago every day?
I said, Mary Elizabeth Coleman, have you ever listened to the show before, the Brad and John show? And she says, oh, yes, that John is very smart. I go, well, what do you think about me, Mary Elizabeth Coleman? And she said,
What would you do with a brain if you had one?
There we go, Brad. Now, I'm starting to think that maybe MGM is paying you every time you play a drop like that.
no, they wouldn't. Okay, we have to take a break.